Sorry. Give me a second. School was never really my passion. And I would never say anything against like college or higher schooling. I think for most people it's like probably the right call. Just for me personally, didn't feel like the collegiate path was where I needed to be. Especially just with the style of music I wanted to do and just wanting to be on the road and stuff. I feel like I learned a lot about actually how to, be a musician and book and get gigs and figure out those businessy sides of things more from just doing it and doing it badly until eventually you do it a little bit better. Just playing enough really lame shows where you sort of start learning how to make a show okay. Like you've got to make bad art before you learn to make good art. But John Foreman had a quote one time that was on Twitter, and he was like, everybody you listen to sucked at one point. And I was like, that was like one of the biggest encouragements I've ever had. It's a lot of fun because I just love words. Lyricism has always been something I'm fascinated by, and that's actually the oldest thing I feel like I know how to do. All the musicianship stuff has come way later and been harder for me to learn, but I love writing words and poetry. I do value even some of the classes I took in college. I think especially the actual, like the music theory 1 through 4 and actually learning stuff, because that was, I don't regret that at all. I use the knowledge and even just the inspiration that I got excited about when we learned some new weird way to put music together. There are songs I could point out that happened after a certain class because I learned a new thing and wanted to write a song with it. But just on just the career path and artist journey in general, I feel like I've learned a lot about what I really care about, but I'm actually currently really content and as happy as I've ever been doing music just because it's fun and it's not really the thing paying the bills right now, and enjoying the church work and the worship musicianship and the doing things in a local church community while also still pursuing music stuff just as something that's fun. Dusty Stages was sort of kind of a thought and a theme that came to my mind, thinking about playing around and playing shows and seeing, what lasts and what doesn't, like thinking about when you go to a place, is anybody going to remember who you were or what you sang or were you any good, versus maybe remembering something you actually talked about that was of value and what would last when the stage you're playing on is old or gone, The entire record of Dusty Stages, I guess you could say it's probably like almost 3 years old. The title track, which is the same name as the album, I probably wrote that 3 years ago. I was able to put a couple songs on the record that were written within the last 6 months, and I'm super glad they, exist, and they wouldn't have existed had we recorded it 2 years ago. And honestly, I'm still very much a growing musician, and I probably would have hated listening to myself more had we actually recorded it 2 years ago. One thing I like about the album is that there are so many extra tracks that we got to use with people. Even if a person only played piano on one song, it shows up and it makes a huge difference, and that was just really cool. I haven't got to do that before, so that was awesome. Father, Thorn, and Son function as one longer story in the album. Father is the story, and it's probably the easiest one to make out what's happening, but it's a father talking to his son on his deathbed and trying to just give his son a couple final thoughts and encouragements, things to think about and things to remember as the focus of life. Thorn follows that, and Thorn, the story of Thorn sort of follows the son as he's an adult and going through life on his own and struggling a lot. Thorn came out of a kind of a rougher patch of life for me, and dealing with some self-doubt and some struggling with my temptations and like Scripture would put it, like the old me, like the old man. And then Son wraps it up with that same character on his deathbed and finally coming to a point of realizing his need for redemption, his need for salvation, and his serious need for help that his dad was talking about. So Seasons was actually inspired. I talked about John Foreman a minute ago. John Foreman had a set of 4 EPs that made up this whole album and it was all themed on the different seasons. And it was interesting. I've never had this happen before, but the inspiration for the song was actually his album artwork. I think on Spotify or something, and I was just looking at the 4 album covers, and it's just the same tree in the same spot, but in different seasons. And so I've just never had that. Like, I was writing a song thinking about that tree and thinking about like the symbolism of the tree being in the same place and being the same tree but going through the different seasons. Some of the best songs to me on the record came from just picking a topic that I wasn't feeling at all. You know, I think I may have written Thorn after we had a really difficult season. Like, I think I was totally fine the week I wrote Thorn, but it was a cool experiment to just say, I need to write a song about that because it matters and it might matter to people. Some of the songs still came from that really cool in the moment. Seasons and Stone. I think Stone, I was literally going for a walk in my neighborhood, and I was halfway down my driveway, and I hummed the first like line of lyrics with the melody and thought it sounded really dark and cool, and so I went back inside and started writing a song instead of walking. John Foreman, Josh Garrels, John Mark McMillan, and Michael Gungor are all crazy songwriters. They all have very different styles, but I sort of discovered them right after I started trying to write songs. You know, even if it's just them and the guitar, they like make you feel stuff. They write things with tons of musical theory, and they use poetry and themes that are, you know, so advanced and depthful, and like, man, it's just so. If I can write like any of them, or if anybody listens to any record I make and is like, that reminded me of any of those 4 dudes, then like I feel like I did something okay. I feel like there's way less dichotomy in those 2 things than sometimes people want to make there be. You know, I think you can be a Christian and a musician. And I sort of feel like if you're doing both of those things the right way and doing both of those things like with all sincerity and actually pouring into it, you'll make really good art, for one, that anybody who believes anything can probably enjoy because it's not terrible art. And I sort of feel like what makes you a like successful Christian is being Christ-like. And if you're actually like being Christ-like and loving people and being genuine and actually, you know, giving of yourself to people, then regardless of whether they believe that or not, they can enjoy your company and enjoy relationship with you and enjoy at least someone really genuinely caring about them. If you make really good art and you show really like sincere love of people from Christ, then you can get along with most people, and they might not hate your music. That's what I'm trying to find. I feel like if people can get anything lasting from the record, which is sort of the point of Dusty Stages, both as a whole and the individual song itself. The one thing I think that is my favorite, I guess, core theme of the album is that there are things that are permanent, there are things that are impermanent, and there are things that truly make a difference in a person's life and cause transformation at the deepest layer of who we are. And Dusty Stages is my first full-length record, so it's not anywhere close, probably, because I hope I get better. It's probably not even close to how good I'll get as a musician one day. I hope that 8 albums and 20 years down the road, I think it's like terrible music by then. But the theme still matters to me a lot, I hope, because thinking about the love you're showing people, and for me, the representation of Christ that you're walking with, that's the kind of thing that can make eternal change for a person and make a deep connection. And even if they don't believe what you believe, there's real relationship that can be made by sharing something that's past just the, small talk and the Facebook and all the other things that we spend all of our time on. And So I think there's something to be said about the impermanent things and the permanent things.